Greetings from Costa Rica. It's Friday, January 2nd, 2026, the first live broadcast of this new year. Thank you very much for joining me, and Happy New Year to everyone out there watching. Today, we're going to be going over the Costa Rica real estate market and talking about price reductions and a few new listings, including one that's an absolute fire sale that may not even hit the market publicly because it's such an attractive beachfront opportunity. Today, our agenda includes, first and foremost, a look at, we'll give a sneak peek of a long lost interview that I had with one of YouTube's greatest Costa Rica vloggers, a celebrity down here. Second of all, I'll give a market update and discuss both the nature of price reductions in our market, why you see them so frequently, and why we are currently seeing them. We will go over some listings that have price reductions to show you where a few opportunities are emerging. And like I said, we will wrap up with new listings, including that fire sale. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I have over 500 Guanacaste and Costa Rica real estate videos. If it is time for you to start looking at the Guanacaste real estate market, you can contact me using this QR code below. Hold up your phone, take a picture, and that will bring you to my virtual contact card where you can reach out via phone, WhatsApp, email, etc. As a reminder, I am the Guanacaste level-headed real estate broker, serving the areas from Playa Potrero all the way down through Playa Junquial, where I sit today. And of course, if you're looking for a complete video compendium of information about the Costa Rica real estate market, you can visit costaricamatt.com and request my free V-book using that blue V-book button. It'll be a great show today. Thank you very much again for joining me, and stay tuned. If you watched my 2025 year-end video where I was predicting what would happen in 2026, I did mention that we'll be seeing an increase in price reductions, and that's definitely something that is going to be happening, and we'll be getting to that shortly. I first wanted to talk about a quick, long-lost interview that I got with one of YouTube's great Costa Rica vloggers. One of my most proud moments, or really one of the things that I'm very proud of, was that I had the approval of Michael Allen of TravelCostaRicaNow.com. Michael was not a huge fan of a lot of Costa Rica realtors because frequently you can find that some are full of hype rather than giving real information to prospective clients, etc. Anyhow, about a year and a half ago in mid-2024, I went to a conference with Sarah Elena, and I recorded a couple interviews with Michael. Well, shortly after I did that, I dropped the SD card with those interviews into the little transmission, or that spot behind my handbrake in my car, actually. And for a while, I just sort of counted it as lost. Well, you may know that Michael tragically passed away last year, and it made me think, boy, I really need to find that chip. And I put my mechanic, Manuel, on it. I told him that somewhere deep in the car, there might be a memory card with some very important interviews on it. And I'm very happy to say that, yes, we have recovered the chip. Yes, I do have 2 interviews. One has a sound defect. I just want to give you a quick sneak peek of my second to last ever interview with Michael Allen, which will eventually be premiering on my channel. Here's a quick look.
How do I look, Dimitri? Am I good?
You look good, man.
I look hot?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, I got lots of people watching out there who might be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
On my audience.
Uh-huh.
Recording.
Greetings from Costa Rica. Next to me, we have the world famous. So anyhow, do be sure to subscribe to my channel to catch that interview, which I'll be editing and putting up here over the next week or two. So first, into our discussion of price reductions here on the Costa Rica real estate market, I want to give a quick idea as to the general nature of reductions, because it's not out of the ordinary for us to see a steady flow of price reductions coming across our radar. And in fact, lately, if we've been seeing a greater volume, there are other factors besides a deteriorating market that are playing into that. First and foremost, initial listing prices here are not that scientific. We don't have a ton of comp data, and there's not a lot of comparable properties in general where we're easily able to say what a property is worth and what it might sell for when we list a property. That is not necessarily realtors' fault. You do also see that very often in our market, realtors are amenable to allowing people to list at whatever price they want to in order to win that listing. Because whereas in formal real estate markets, it is unethical and you can get caught overinflating the value in order to win a listing, we really don't have that system of enforcement of the NAR code of ethics down here. So you do see a lot of people who just say, oh, I'll take the listing and yeah, we can try and sell it at that price. And then eventually they start having to reduce the price. You also see that there are a lot of reductions here because this remains almost entirely a cash market for foreigners purchasing here. Although lenders like Second Street and Volo Loans are trying to change that. But because it's a cash market, your average listing period is a lot longer than debt financed markets in the US and Canada. And people typically have to eventually resort to a price reduction in order to move the property. Now, the reason we're seeing a greater volume of price reductions lately, and I have had clients say, man, I just see reduction email after reduction email. And yes, I'm seeing that as well. But essentially, we're at a moment where we're coming out of an absolute boom that was an entire seller's market from 2021 to 2023, and still somewhat going into 2024. And especially in very prime areas, those few locations in Guanacaste where expats were just rushing to get into the market. After COVID, there was no inventory available to meet that demand. Sellers could ask almost any price that they wanted. And a lot of sellers who put their properties on the market in 24 and now 25 were using all of that input from the 21 through 23 boom to determine what they thought they could sell their property for. So there were a lot of people who got overhyped and exuberant, is the way I wanted to say it, about their pricing in the last couple years. And right now, between that exuberance wearing off and another key factor, which is our high season, you're seeing a steady flow and really an increased volume of price reductions above the normal. As the high season comes in, January through April, we're getting our greatest volume of real estate visitors throughout the year. And it's an opportunity for people to do a marketing push around their property. So you see a lot of sellers take the December through January timeframe as an opportunity to do that email blast saying price reduced, to get the word out there about their property again. And normally in December and January, you would typically see an increased volume of price reductions compared to the rest of the year. One thing I didn't necessarily emphasize enough in my previous video about the 2026 outlook is that demand for property here in Guanacaste continues to be concentrated into prime areas with a lot of amenities access to healthcare, access to private schools, on and on. And that demand being concentrated into those few areas really has resulted in price reductions starting to flow at a greater rate in non-prime areas. You've seen that a lot of sellers who were looking at the market in 21 through 23, initially they thought, oh, even though my house is up in the mountains or it's not necessarily as accessible, I'm still going to be able to get a huge price for what I'm selling because so many other people have done it and because there wasn't enough inventory on the market. Well, as we shift to a market that has more inventory than buyers, you're definitely seeing that people in those non-prime areas that are a little further out from the tourism communities like Tamarindo, Playa Potrero, those big luxury gated communities, people outside of those areas with the demand concentration are certainly the ones that are having to look at price reductions as a tool to begin moving more real estate. Just to mention a few examples of what I'm seeing from around the market, properties that are not our brokerage's exclusive listing, to give you some ideas of what's happening. I saw one newsletter from a big brokerage in Tamarindo where 6 out of 10 of the properties that were listed in this newsletter had reduced in front of the price. A lot of those were in Tamarindo itself, but those were 6 out of 10 of those listings that had a reduced price at the moment. One home located in the mountains outside of a major tourism area recently reduced from $440,000 down to $320,000. That's nearly a 27% price reduction. And that kind of number to me screams that the seller went from exuberance and optimism to I need to sell my property right now. Typically, those reductions that are done more for marketing purposes and to try and attract a few more leads are more in the neighborhood of 5 to 10%. Up in Avellanas, to the north of Junquillal, you've seen some reductions as well. One of the projects that I've been following over the last few years, Numandi, who had opened their doors with $800,000 homes as their base model and price rate, is now offering some of those properties at $670,000, which is a pretty significant adjustment there. Obviously, not all of their properties are going to see that big of a reduction, but they've seen clearly a need to hit a lower price point. One home outside of Playa Grande in the Corona del Cabo neighborhood reduced from $1.5 million, or really 1.49, down to 1.25. That's a 16% decrease, which is also pretty significant. And over all in all, especially in those non-prime locations, you're seeing some pretty significant reductions. To get to a few specific properties where we're seeing great value now, one of my favorite listings that became that actually has surprised me as to how many people have been looking at it and shown interest. First and foremost, I want to talk about the tree house up near the town of 27 de Abril. This is a home located only 20 to 25 minutes from Tamarindo. It's at a strategic road junction, the 27 de Abril. You're only about an hour from the Guanacaste International Airport. The home is built in a finca, a farm that was not developed, and so it's got incredible privacy with no other homes around it. You've got a very spacious lot, 1.25 acres. It's only a few years old. It's a concrete home built extremely well. Great design, amazing views out over the valley. And now the tree house has an asking price of just $425,000, which really, if you're comparing it to similar homes on the market, 425 is getting to one of those prices where you're saying you couldn't find many better values. especially that are built as well, that have great views, and that are really at such an accessible location where you've got such easy access to important stuff. Second of all, let's go over a few land listings. And I have one land listing that's a $41,000 home site that we'll go over in a minute. My colleague Camille has 1,500-meter parcels located on the main road to Paraíso, and really just a 15-minute drive out. Actually, I take that back. It's really just a 10-minute drive out to the beaches of our area. They're now listed at $69,000. There are 3 right next door to each other. They're right along a paved highway so that you've got great access and don't have to go on any dirt roads. If you were interested, you could combine 2 of them to make a bigger lot. Because they're on public roads, they would be mixed use, and you could put a little hotelito or a business on these properties. And now at $69,000, they have a really attractive price when we're talking about 1,500 square meters, which would be close to half an acre. By the way, Happy New Year, Paula. Thanks very much for joining me, as always. Greatly appreciate it. One of my faithful YouTube fans joining us there. Really appreciate your participation. Next, let's go on to another home site out near Playa Negra. This is a $41,000, 217 square meter property. That would be about 2,300 square feet. Really, it's great for a low maintenance home build. You're a quick drive out to the beach if you did drive. You could also walk out to the ocean in about 10-15 minutes. It's located really close to Playa Negra, one of Guanacaste's top surf breaks. And really, at $41,000, you're not seeing many properties on the market these days. I'll give you a quick look at the location down here so that you get an idea. It's also in the heart of what will eventually be the walkable community center. Really, it's Los Pargos and Playa Negra, this area here. It's a very small community today, yet it has an outsized food scene for some reason. They actually have a couple of absolute world-class foodie restaurants. I don't have a better word than foodie to use. Via Divina, Mycelium, both of those are absolute culinary experiences where you're sitting down in fine dining, really for highfalutin meals, as my mom would have said. You also have Cafe Playa Negra just right across the street, which is an amazing Peruvian restaurant. You've got Cafe La Ventana, juices, great natural foods. On the beachfront, you have Hotel Playa Negra. So it's a community where I don't say that it's walkable currently, because you don't necessarily have a supermarket and other sort of like a scene happening right downtown. It's still a very small community, but within a walking distance, you've got access to some great food. I should also mention a pizzeria right next door. So for $41,000, if you're a surfer, that's an absolute bargain in the Guanacaste market right now in terms of beachside properties. And it's listed with my colleague, Mariam Rodriguez. Send me a message and I'm more than happy to give you her email address so that you can get directly in contact with her. Another property with a ton of different uses that has now been reduced is Cabinas El Corazón de Tamarindo. We showed this recently to a couple of folks in Villarreal. They were amazed at the feeling that it's a real oasis. You've got half an acre of property that's sitting at the junction where you go right down to Tamarindo. It's just a 5-minute drive down to Tamarindo itself. The huge nightlife, all of the restaurants that you've got there. And on the property, you have 2 homes plus 4 apartments. So you've got a 3-bedroom home, that Caribbean, wooden, beautiful, old school home. You have a 2-bedroom home at the front of the property that you see here on your right. Here's that Caribbean style wooden home. And then you have 4 studio apartments, all with kitchenettes. Here's the location just here at the Cruce de Villa Real, where you can be down in Tamarindo in just 5 minutes. And Cabinas El Corazon de Tamarindo is now listed at $825,000. It's absolutely one of those properties that I think could be used specifically for long-term rentals. There are very few long-term rental opportunities on the market, and there's a dire need for those rentals in the community. You have a ton of professionals. You have lots of families who've moved down to the area. They're looking for somewhere that they can rent on a year-long lease. And by using it for long-term rentals, you would also be avoiding a lot of the rigmarole associated with short-term rentals, the new Airbnb enforcement, etc. And it could be an easy passive income property for somebody who wanted to look for up to 6 different long-term rental clients. Would have great cash flow and a very nice ROI for somebody who invested into a long-term rental program. Next, let's go on to another one of my favorite listings. This is Campo de Sueños. Very solid 3-bedroom home, just a 10-minute drive down to Playa Negra. Probably even a bit shorter, let's say 7 to 8 minutes drive. You've got a gorgeous pool at Campo de Sueños. It's big enough to, be sort of a party pool, one could say. This home was built back in the day when you used full concrete reinforced construction. It's a 3-bedroom, so it does well on the rental market. It was fully remodeled. The pool was added by its current owner, and it's just all around a very comfortable 3-bedroom near the beach here. It has a 3,000 square meter property, which is 3/4 of an acre. And that gives you a really nice sense of privacy. Your neighbors next door are wonderful people who definitely want this home to fall into the hands of some more good people. And Campo de Sueños is now reduced to $435,000. Our last price reduction is one of our only condos on today's show. And it's got to be one of the best values per square foot in Guanacaste right now, because it's 1,700 square feet. I'm frantically typing this into my calculator to get the actual per square foot cost. And it's listed at $193 per square foot. I'm talking about Iguana Villas number 7, which is now reduced to $329,000. The Iguana Villas are just a couple blocks from a white sand beach. It's a project with just 10 villas. Really, even with 10 villas, you see that a lot of them aren't used most of the year, or that their owners only use them as vacation properties. So it's very quiet. You have the benefit of being your separate standalone villa. And at 1,700 square feet, these feel really like comfortable residences, private homes rather than condos where you're really stuck next door to people. You've got a gorgeous terrace upstairs, a big porch downstairs, and at 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,700 square feet, and priced under $200 per square foot. Really, you're not seeing many condos that are that size on the market currently at this kind of price. So at $329,000, that's Iguana Villas number 7, one of many listings about which you could contact me. Let's go on to talk about 3 new listings, including our fire sale opportunity. First, I want to touch on Via Meridiana, which is a really interesting property because it's a luxury home, a luxury family compound. It's also a property that could be self-sufficient and allow you to go off the grid if you are interested in that. And here is the listing profile for Via Meridiana. Here we're looking at the main villa, which is a 3-bedroom, gorgeous old, it's actually only built, it's not old construction, but it's got old world charm. The original architect of this property grew up in Morocco, and you can see that Spanish, the charm of the architectural design here. It has a 3-bedroom main villa, a 2-bedroom guest house that you see down there. It has a gorgeous pool. The property also has solar panels. It has its own well and water storage. So really it can go off the grid and become a self-sustaining property if the need arose. And really it's a property whose current owners have taken it to the next level with a ton of remodeling, new furniture, all kinds of upgrades. The guest home is a full, comfortable residence. Here you can see the guest home as well. The property also has a pickleball court. It has a caretaker home. Here you see that caretaker home. Just a ton of stuff. This is the stables that they've converted into a chicken coop. Here are the solar panels. Here's the water storage. Again, it's a property with everything. I didn't even mention that it's got gorgeous views out to the ocean and that you're only a 15-minute drive away from the beach. Once again, you're only about an hour and 15 minutes away from the Guanacaste International Airport. So that is Via Meridiana. And there I mistyped while I was creating the banner. My apologies. The name is Via Meridiana. Another new listing I want to talk about, my Casa Verde listing, a 3-bedroom home in Tierra Pacifica. Now here I am being a bit deceptive. This property was on the market a while ago, and we actually got an offer quickly after it was on the market. At that point, the buyers who had made the offer actually backed out of the contract, and the sellers said, oh man, we were scared by the prospect of selling our home. So at that juncture, they took it off the market. They've been visiting Costa Rica over the last year or year and a half, and now they are committed to selling their home. You can see it's got this beautiful, what we call Spanish colonial sort of feel. The home is incredible for airflow. Your main room here is currently just screened in. The owners love enjoying the Guanacaste outdoors and that fresh air. You could change it, convert it to glass windows there on the first story if you wanted to put AC in that space. But overall, as it currently is, it is a wonderful home for enjoying the Guanacaste outdoors and fresh air. It's owned by an artist, and she has brought her charm into every room. It's got some beautiful paintings on the walls, and it's really sort of a home with a lot of character rather than one of those sterile, white and bright, newer, sort of homes that you can see in a lot of places. One property that I forgot to mention on our price reductions, and actually I have taken it off here, so let me see if I can bring it up again. If you're interested in a larger piece of land and gaining self-sufficiency, we have the Altos de Socorro Hilltop Farm, now reduced to $850,000. Yes, this location is not in the middle of everything. You do not have, you're not close to a tourism hub, and just you're not in a big expat community. This is a property for people who want to live in the real Costa Rica, who want to get far away from hustle and bustle. It is now reduced to $850,000. And it's got a beautiful, somewhat new 4-bedroom home on top of the acreage. In total, it's close to 30 acres, which is 12 hectares. It did have a ton of citrus. They've been experiencing issues with that, but overall, it's one of those properties for people who have an interest in growing their own food. It's located up in Ojancha, where you get cooler mountaintop temperatures. On average, it's a few degrees cooler than the rest of Guanacaste year-round, and you're never affected quite as bad by those really harsh lowland temperatures out by the beach. That Altos de Socorro farm is my colleague Steve's listing. And again, excuse me, had a kombucha before we got started, and that's starting to create that effervescent, great activity as my microbes benefit. So anyhow, it's now reduced to $850,000, 4-bedroom home and nearly 30 acres of property. Finally, I want to quickly touch on my fire sale. This is not a property that is on the market, and in fact, it may not make it to the market. We've got some folks interested. I am gonna see if we can just put it under contract before it goes out there. But this is a sneak peek at a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2nd-story beachfront condo at the Las Brisas del Mar complex, where I do have a couple of condos listed that I'm not describing as fire sales whatsoever. I had clients who said, we want to sell our property efficiently. We don't want to mess around with a ton of showings. What's the price at which we would find a buyer and be out of it by March or April for sure? I told them that given the condo is remodeled, it's upgraded, it's perfectly turnkey and ready to go, and given the absolute scarcity of pure beachfront condos on the market, that at $395,000, their condo would find a buyer. Here is a quick look at the view from the 2nd story, the terrace of this condo. If you want to know more about it, send me an email. You can reach me at matt@costaricamatt.com. We'll wrap up with this gorgeous ocean view from the 2nd story of the condo, which is Las Brisas, number 9. Thanks very much for joining me. Let me know if you want to know more about this fire sale or the other properties that we've discussed today. Here is that gorgeous ocean view from the terrace of this $395,000 condo, shortly to be on the market if we don't put it under contract first.